Hello, KFC Supercoaches. It's the team's podcast for round 19, the final big bye. We're all scrambling, and then we've got the mastermind here, Ian Maybanks. Then Freddie comes along and just ruins a whole bunch of Supercoach teams as well. How have you been affected?
Freddie's stripped me of Gutho and Cody Walker. Horsburgh's gone into the Queensland camp, so wasn't expecting those. It's a bit of a surprise, but I've still got 12 on the park, so I'm not going to do anything too drastic about having the numbers this week. I think we really want to be setting up for the run home now, so still 9 rounds to go. It's a third of the season still, so there's plenty of moves to make. Wouldn't throw it all on having an extra number for this week if you didn't have to. Yeah,
I 100% agree. It looks like I'll have 12 as well. I lost Walker to Freddie Fittler, and Richie Kenner was my big cheapie who has unfortunately not been named. He's 18th man this week with Munro into that team after having a pretty solid debut. There's Sean Johnson potentially out as well. He has been named. A whole bunch of big things that we're going to get through. For now, let's do the winners. And Sean Johnson, as I mentioned. So he has been named for now, but he could stay back in Auckland for the birth of his child. We're going to have to wait and see, but that would be a big blow given how popular he has been for Supercoach.
Yeah, he's in red-hot form up until that game in the slot last week. Came back to earth a little bit against the Bunnies, but he's still got great fixtures to run home. So you really want him out there this week. So just hold tight on that. I wouldn't, even if he doesn't play this week, I think you'd still hold on to him.
Send through your questions and comments, guys. There's a lot coming through already on Facebook. I've got YouTube cranking as well here. On Facebook, who would you trade Buller to this weekend? Look, we were going to get to him later, but we may as well talk about him now. Very popular sell this week. The BE is 150 in all. Usually he would be an absolute sell, but he covers this round, and then I can sell him to Munster or Cleary, who potentially is back early next week. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to cop a bit of a price loss this week. Hopefully he goes okay against the Sharks, and then he becomes an absolute gun for the run home next week.
Yeah, if you look at his projections there, I think if he scores about mid-70s, which he's capable of doing, then he's going to lose 60K. So you just sort of do a bit of maths about what you think he might score if you're going to hold him, because you don't want to price yourself out of that big move next week. The other thing you consider is maybe grab a dual centre. If you've got a dual centre option, you can bring down to fullback. Maybe you do plug in a cheaper option there, and then you can switch them back next week to release those funds to get the guy you really want in at fullback. I don't mind Will Kennedy this week. The Sharks have a good fixture and a good run. So, he's a guy you could plug in there. If you don't have a Sarko, he can slot down in at fullback and move back up to centre later. There's still some decent options there.
Also on the winners list, and there's questions coming through about him as well, is Jermaine Hopgood a certainty this week? Now, look, he has been named at lock for the Eels, and the word is he's 19th man for Origin, so he will get released unless there's some sort of drama in Maroon's camp, and then he would stay in that squad. So hopefully it's an injury-free build-up for the Maroons, and then we can lock in Hopgood into our Supercoach teams, potentially as a captaincy choice. We're just speaking off air. You could go VC on Hines into Hopgood as captain as the safe option.
Yeah, I think Nico's a standout captain. If you want a VC Nico, just to be certain that he doesn't pop an injury or something to his ankle in the first 5 minutes, and Hopgood probably looks the standout option. Should play big minutes for the Eels and pump out a bunch of offloads. So I think, VC Nico into C Hopgood looks pretty good.
Yep. We got Stefano Udakamanu, who's missed that Blues squad, as well as Nico Hines. So a couple of little Supercoach boosts in there, along with all the carnage. Now, JMK, Jeremy Marshall-King, I originally had him on the losers list, but he's a winner now. He's been named for the Dolphins, despite the fact that Wayne Bennett said that he could potentially be out for the season.
Yeah, he's pumped out 75 points for him on the weekend. So, he's been great when he's played, but it sort of seems that this shoulder problem's going to maybe linger a bit. I think Bennett and the Dolphins are sort of on the cusp still of the finals, so I think he'll still use him while they're still thereabouts, and try and just work him through the season. So if I've got him, I'm definitely holding him. I'm not moving him until I see he's well and truly cut loose.
Onto the losers list, and Tyrell Sloan is out for the Dragons. There was some chat he'd been dropped, and I know it was posted around on some avenues, but he's not dropped. It's a calf injury, so hopefully it's just a minor thing for him. But in any case, it means we've got an important number for this week who is not going to play.
Yeah, it's probably the last week you probably wanted to use Sloan if you had him. So, it's definitely a guy you can cut loose and cash out to a Munro. That would be a good move to make, I reckon.
Speaking of battling teams making big changes, we've got Hayes Perham and Paul Alamotti, both still pretty popular for Supercoach, have been axed by the Bulldogs after that massive loss against the Knights over the weekend. So you're going to be hunting around for players to replace them with. I think Munro is probably the standout there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if you're looking for a downgrade, then it's probably Munro for the 1 week play, or maybe you go for like Jack Howarth to just nuff out somebody there. If you've got a dual centre, second row option elsewhere, it's something you can consider. We're still at 9 weeks to go, like I said earlier, so maybe you don't want to be nothing so early, but it's something definitely an option you can take.
We've spoken about Cody Walker and Clint Gutherson making that Origin team and not being available for us this week. Here he is, Cody Walker. I mean, he has been in sensational form for the Rabbitohs, and he probably deserves selection, but why are you picking a 30-plus-year-old guy in the Origin team when you could be going with someone like Nicho Hynes? And same goes for Gutho. I mean, Hynes could easily be on that extended bench instead of Gutherson. Doesn't make any sense to me, but we're going to have to put up with it for Supercoach this week.
Yeah, Freddie's killing us. We just got to move on, mate.
Look, we can't even plan. Freddie doesn't even know what he's going to do tomorrow, let alone us planning for what Freddie might do in the future. So we knew there might be some curly ones coming up for this final dead rubber, and that's exactly what's happened. Moving on to Dylan Brown. So if you did hold him, he's been suspended for 7 weeks, and some of those have already counted. So it looks like he'll be back in round 23. I'm going to take some questions. We've got, am I seeing double? It's Sangster and Hipster Sangster on the show today. Don't mind that one, actually. 10 trades left and a boost. Do I use my boosts or wait until next week? I would advise that next week is the big week, because that's when you're setting up your team for the run home. So I'd be saving those for next week for sure. And who knows, there could be some big injuries in Origin. There could be some big restings as well. Maybe next week won't be the week. It could be the weekend after that.
I totally agree with you, mate. Yeah. 20 or 21 is the set up your team week. So I've got a bit of cash in reserve myself. So I know I can get Jerome Hughes up to Cleary in one move. And then in 2 other trades, I can get somebody down and then Fafita in. So just do a bit of maths and see how much cash you need to get the guys you want. I think, and who you consider essential. For me, Cleary and Fafita are the guys I'm missing at the moment.
Yep, similar for me. I've got Fafita, but Munster is the other guy I really want to get in. Onto the buy list, Tyrone Munro. We've spoken about him a bit. I think he probably comes in, he plays this week. He came in last week, of course, and had a very, very good debut. I think he plays this week, and then you've got Campbell Graham. Isaiah Tass is back this week. Then you've got Campbell Graham back for their next game, which is after the bye, so in a few weeks' time, and Latrell Mitchell back as well. So I think he plays this week and then probably doesn't play for the rest of the year, which I think is actually a positive for Supercoach.
Yeah. Well, look, if he hangs around, it'll be because he's playing well.
Yep.
So, I think it's a win-win situation. You plug him in, he's at bottom price, and the Bunnies do have some good fixtures. And if he hangs around there, you might even plug him in and play him in your 17 in some of those.
Yep, Ronaldo Mulatalo, extremely popular this week, and what I like about him is the consistency. He's not a particularly, when you watch him play NRL, he's not a particularly consistent guy, but we know that for SuperCoach, he's got a decent work rate, plus he's a winger in a very good team. So you're looking at some pretty solid scores going forward from a guy playing in a big team with a good bye schedule.
Yeah, I picked him up last week. You know what you're going to get. The Sharks love to fling it. You think of what's a template Sharkies try. It's Nikora hitting a hard line on the right, and then the ball slings out very quickly to the left, and Talakai puts Mulatalo in the corner. It's just, it's going to happen one or two times a game. It's just a matter of how many of those will Ronaldo bomb and how many will he put down.
Exactly. Good call there. On the hold list, I do have Jareen Buller. I know that you've sold already. Would you be selling this week with that big break even, or just going for the extra number this round?
I think I'd sell him, mate. The Tigers look a shambles to me. That was pretty ordinary. Coruscant's out still, Brooks is out still, Dewey's gone for the season. They look, after that, I don't know how they come back from that trouncing. I think, that was a bit of an extraordinary game. So, Buller's stats are way down because he didn't have the chance to get through the work, because Cowboys just pretty much scored off every play. So, even if he bounces back to getting, a solid 50, 60 sort of just in the base and the power game we've seen from him, he's still going to lose a stack of cash. And I think you can move to somewhere, to somebody who's going to move you forward, take their prices on the up while he's on the down. So, yeah, that's what I'd be going for anyway.
Yeah, one I've definitely thought about is Will Kennedy and it might only be for a couple of weeks, and then they go to Munster or whoever it is after Origin's over. On the sell list, can you talk anyone out of selling? Billy Smith, William Warbrick or Josh Schuster? All peak cheapies, all with a buy this week. Could you make an argument for holding on to any of those guys?
No, I'd move Smith, and I'll probably move Smith this week down to Munro. Warbrick you could hold. He's been in great form for the Storm. Schuster, I reckon you can cut loose. Definitely. I did that, I think, 2 weeks ago. So he's played a couple of the bye rounds for us and got us through. So I think, yeah, he's one to go.
Plenty of questions coming through on YouTube. We've got Jerome Hughes. Is he a sell? For me, he'll be Nathan Cleary next week, presuming Cleary comes back early, which is what's been suggested.
Yeah, that's what we've heard from people around the Panthers, is Cleary's due for round 20 comeback against the Dolphins, which is a very juicy fixture. So if Cleary's playing, then I'll just move straight to him round 20.
Ashton is saying Billy Smith down to Munro. I think I agree with that trade. Lock it in.
Yep, I'm doing it at the moment.
Yep, Taruva to Mulatalo. Interesting one there, because Taruva's a guy who you could hold as a 5th or a 6th centre winger, but I think it makes sense. That's a decent little upgrade, and it's not going to cost you too much cash.
Yeah, I like it. And I think we've seen the last couple of weeks, whoever plays in that inside Taruva is going to have sticky hands. Tungo came inside, had a great game himself last week, and the week before Peachy had a great game in the centres there. So, I think the Panthers wingers are struggling to find the ball at the moment, whereas it's not a problem for Mulatalo. He's getting the attacking opportunities.
Let's run through each of the games now. We've got the Tigers with the Sharkies. At the Tigers, they've got 12 suspended. So they've got 3 guys out. All of their changes have been forced, even though they've got absolutely belted last week by the Cowboys. So you've got 12 suspended, Noffo with a shoulder and Naden with a shoulder as well. Anyone standing out for you in this team? Johnny Bateman, what are you doing with him? Buller, what's happening here with the Tigers? Are they shot? Are they done?
That was such a freak game. Like, it could happen again against the Sharks. They've got the same sort of attacking flair the Cowboys do. But if I've got Isaiah Papali'i, I'll expect he'll punch out 50 points of work. And I think Bateman should do the same. I think looking at the lineup, maybe Bateman's moving back to the edge. So that's maybe less work but more attacking opportunity for him. So I think, like, if you've got either of those forwards, you can hold them. But if I had any sort of backs, Buller included, I'd probably be looking to move them. I can't see any points coming for them there.
At the Sharkies, they are unaffected by Origin. Of course, no Nico Hines there. So they're running out a very good team. There's no Finucane or Hammy Noeli this week. But in any case, it's a pretty strong-looking team. They are all over the most popular players in SuperCoach. You look at the list, and number 2, 3, 4, 5 on the list are all from the Sharkies. You're looking at guys like Hines, Will Kennedy, Nickera, etc. I can't talk people out of Sharks players right now, particularly with this matchup on the weekend against the Tigers.
Yeah, go for it. I think any of those backline options could score big on any given week. The right side does seem to not get the ball as much because it's sort of, as I said earlier, Nickera tends to run that line, so it's a bit harder for the ball to get out to Katoa and Ramian, but it could be their week this week. They're really low price, those guys as well. They're all nicely priced, so I think you could take almost any of them. I saw Moylan on the list there as a popular trade-in as well, and that's probably the only one I disagree with. That's his first 100 of the season. Even when they pumped the Dogs the round previous, he only found 32 points there. So he has to do a lot to get a big score. And I don't think he's a guy you want to get stuck with in a key position for the run home. So, yeah, probably rethink that one and maybe target one of those other Shark options.
At the Dragons, as I mentioned, Sloan is out with a calf injury, so Paul Turner comes in at fullback for what I believe is his club debut. We've got a Monet in the halves with Ben Hunt out. At the Raiders, the big Supercoach news is Horsburgh out, given that he's playing Origin. What are your plans with him? Ideally, he's a hold?
He does have the bye the following week. I think I'll hold him. He's playing so well, and he's just, got a Supercoach friendly game. So I think the dual positioning as well, he works well with Tapani and Tohu that I've got there at the moment. So I don't have any plans to move him on.
Good question from Mitchell Webster, which has just popped in as we're talking about the Raiders. And he's asking, is Hudson Young buy of the round, the run home, with the Raiders coming good potentially in the run home? What are your thoughts? Missed Origin squad.
I like it. I think 2% owned, massive pod, 570k. The price is right. He scored 93 versus the Titans last week, 50 of that in base, 4 of the last 6 games at home. So, and running up against, he's on that favoured edge for the Raiders attack, going against who's going to be plugging the gap there where Ben Hunt would be? Mamone.
So probably, yeah.
It's probably a good spot for him to be running at. I reckon he'll put up a good score this week. I don't mind it.
Eels v the Warriors is the next clash. Of course, no Gutho, no Moses, no Regan Campbell-Gillard due to Origin. But Junior Barlow got dropped from Origin, so he's available. Sean Lane's back from injury. Hopgood looks like he will play. He'll be released as long as there are no injuries there at the Maroons. So, look, at the start of the week, I was really death riding the Eels. But for now, it's actually looking like they have a decent side on the park this week.
Yeah, not too bad. I think we saw the last outing with Maddo in the halves that the ball didn't flow so freely as it usually does side to side for the Eels. And losing Gutho as well, they probably lose, a little bit of the dynamism in their attack. I don't expect the ball's going to flow edge to edge like it usually would. I'm happy to see my man Sean Russell at fullback. He's one of my pod squad fillers. So for me, that's happy. For me, I hope Maddo punches out another 50 or whatever there at 5'8", then the price comes down, and then he's back in the forward mix for the run home. I think Barlaw does look good. I just checked his stats before we came on, and the offloads are flowing again for him. He's 3-round average of 62. He's had 3 4-4 offloads the last few games, so he's one to consider. You probably don't want to be mucking around in the front row at this time, but just, he's a good option.
At the Warriors, they've got the same 17, but there's a big watcher on Sean Johnson due to the birth of his second child. Rabbitohs v the Doggies. So the Rabbitohs are depleted. They've got Walker, Murray, Cook, Kaloa Matangi in Origin, but it's all about Munro in this team for this week. Anyone else standing out for you there? Good, Davey Moale is going to be a crucial extra number for me this round.
Yeah, he should give us you never know. He might crash over for a try. The Dogs' defence is as generous as it was last week. Look, I've still got AJ. If Cody was playing this week, I would have kind of put him down for a hat trick, but without him, I'm not so confident that the big score will be there for him. I think without all those other big guns, there's probably Munro aside, there's probably not anybody you want Rabbitohs-wise there.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well. At the Doggies, they've got Sexton, who's come from the Titans and straight into the halfback hot seat for them. Some big changes there. They've got Avarillo at fullback. Perham and Alamotti have been dropped. But after that massive loss last week, I can't be going near any of these guys. I do have Jacob Preston, and I'm thinking of holding him as a 5th 2RF for the run home. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, he's done a great job for us. He's the only regular dog who's averaging over 60 points per game for the season. Kind of tells you where the Dogs have been at and how good he's been for them. So maybe you could look at Reid Marnie. He's 430, so if you need to upgrade your second hooker or something, but I'd be steering clear of, any of those sort of bottom 4 teams.
Titans v the Dolphins. Obviously, the Titans are depleted through Origin, mostly Brimson, Timo Fafita and Mo Fotuaika. Anyone standing out for you here?
I still don't mind Brian Kelly as a pod. He's one game under 40 all season. He's really consistent, averaging over 60 at the moment. So if that's your sort of thing, you like to plug in somebody a little bit different in your centres, it's something I don't mind doing. He's one to look at. I think otherwise you're just waiting for Fafita and Tino to come back. Those are the guys you want for the run home for sure.
And at the Dolphins, they've got the hammer out due to Origin. Aitken goes to centre. Jeremy Marshall-King has been named despite that shoulder injury. And of course, Valence Tafare continues to be popular basically every week. What are your thoughts on him when he takes the field? I mean, I love watching him play and he gets a great attacking stats, but realistically, how long do you think Wayne Bennett will persist with Valence Tafare?
I guess the good thing for him is that Brenko Lee's always good for an injury, and it seems to be the guy who's ahead of him in the team at the moment. So while Brenko's having injury worries, he'll probably get a run out. So, well, I think he's mid 300s now. It's still a decent price. I think the thing with Dolphins options is just they're going to hit the Panthers next week and then have a bye, which is a little off-putting. So I probably wouldn't want to wheel out Big Val versus the Panthers. And I think Asako, Nikorima are decent options as well and being in good form, but they're not guys I want to play against the Panthers in round 20, which will be another really tricky round. It'll be the last real tricky round next week. So maybe those Dolphins guys, if you want them, they're round 22.
Couple of questions till the end of the show. Jared Watson's asking, Buller to Ponga this round before Buller leaks more cash. For me, I just need those extra points from Buller this week and then I'll see what happens next round. You're thinking the opposite, I think?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can move him. I'm kind of a bit reluctant to move. You know, so much can happen off the field. Like maybe if there's another way of making that move happen, have a look at whether you can shuffle a centre around or something and make that work in two moves that work for you rather than just that one straight move. I think there is a bit of risk in sort of what might happen to Ponga within 2 weeks or whatever. So just, yeah.
We'll take one final question off YouTube. Jet Wood is asking, Sean Johnson to Cleary next week. Now, first things first, we're not 100% sure that Cleary is going to get named next round, although it has been talked about. And then also, will Cleary come back and hit the ground running like he has done in SuperCoach in the past, or will it take him a little bit of time to build up? The injuries he's had in the past, particularly the shoulders, for example, he's been able to train and still keep his fitness, whereas with a hamstring injury, it's going to be tough for him to come straight back in and hit the ground running and be keeping up with the play, having been off his feet for so long.
I won't doubt Nathan Cleary, mate. He's just a great player, and he's in the best team in the comp. So if he's in the hot seat driving that team, then I want him in my SuperCoach team. It's got to, you know, kind of like when we saw Ponga play the Dogs last week. If I see Nathan Cleary's in a game against the leaky Dolphins, then I just got to have him. It won't be a hesitation for me. If he's named, then he's coming in.
Sweet. Yep, I'm freeing up cash for him as well. Big thanks to Ian Maybanks, a.k.a. The Mastermind, for coming on today. We have the Game Day podcast at 11 a.m. on Thursday. We'll catch you then.